Hello and welcome to the video. In this video we're going to talk about customer experience management. Now, customer experience management is something that is practiced increasingly by various firms, particularly in service industries. So it's something that is very important to companies or brands where consumers actually consume at the point of sale. So there's nothing tangible, they don't have a product to take away with them. It is simply something that they go to experience. So if you're talking about the airline industry, or you're talking about sports centres, or you're talking about cinemas, or you're talking about museums, these are the kind of places where customer experience management is very important, and it's important that these kind of places really get to grips with and understand what their customer needs are. One of the methods that is used frequently is a method called customer journey mapping. And that's what we're going to look at today. We're going to look at this idea of, it's also known as customer walkthrough assessment. And it's a method of studying a customer's buying experience. It identifies all the places that a company interacts with the consumer and evaluates each of these touch points. Now, mapping the journey starts from the customer's initial search for information, its delivery, sometimes its installation, and a company can then really better understand the customer experience, and in so doing discover where they can improve. So it's really to identify those touch points. And when the visitor encounters these touch points, these can be known either as pain points. So if the experience is not very positive, it may be seen to them as a pain point. Or on the other hand, it can be a highlight, a very positive experience. So the process of creating this customer journey map begins, as I say, before the customer actually arrives in situ. So from the moment of deciding that perhaps they're going to go and visit a particular museum, so they're going to go on the website and look for information, they're going to think how they're going to get there. Then they get there and they have their experience when they're there. But once they leave, there's also a sort of an ongoing experience, whether it's through posting pictures on Facebook, talking to their friends on Snapchat or whatever. So the actual customer journey is longer than just when they are there. So the idea here is really to plan the visitor's entire experience. And that's what we're going to do today. So if we think about why this is important and why you need to be learning about this and thinking about this in marketing, there was a recent study in Harvard Business Review which noted that, and I'm going to quote now, "Journey-based transformations are not easy and they may take years to perfect, but the reward is higher customer and employee satisfaction, increased revenue and lower costs." So there in itself are the number of reasons as to why customer journey mapping in the service industries is important. So for the purpose of this video, we are going to map our own journey through the Victoria and Albert Museum in London. This is a very famous museum. It's a very spectacular museum. It's visited by people from all over the world. And it lies in the heart of Kensington, just actually close to Knightsbridge, which is a very nice part of London. So you're all going to come with me now, and we're going to visit the Victoria and Albert, and I'm going to document my journey as I go. And basically what I'm doing as I travel through the museum is making a mental note, which I'll actually flag up to you as we go around, of the pain points and the highlights. And then at the end, we're going to see if we can draw our own customer journey map. So come with me and let's go and visit the Victoria and Albert Museum in London. So that was our journey around the Victoria and Albert Museum. What an interesting time it was for us to really look at all of our touch points as we went around. And it's very interesting when you document something like this that you really get to think about yourself as the consumer and what your experience was like. So we documented our highlights, which you can see here were things like signposting. Generally were very good, so signage was good, signposting from the underground was good. Great sense of anticipation at the entrance, that feeling of wonderment and what lies behind that beautiful facade as you go in. And then the fantastic information display and the information point when you get in there if you have any questions. So that was all really nicely done. And as we went around, the displays were good. There's a lot of interaction and use of digital technology and opportunities to really learn and to find out more. So there were a lot of learning opportunities. So for anybody who goes to really gather information, say if they're writing a thesis or conducting research, there was some very good opportunities there. The staff were generally informative and helpful. And then, of course, there's the shop, which is not necessarily part of the museum. It's often an external vendor that manages that shop and the cafe, but it needs to be really in line with the Victoria and Albert brand values, and the shop did a good job of that in its bright retail setting and the beautiful merchandise that they had on offer. And then if we look at our pain points that we noted in our touch points, we noted that the opening hours were not very long in the evening, so it doesn't give a lot of opportunity for visitors who want to come, say, after work. There were a lot of requests for donations as we went around. Although the museum is free, this is a wonderful thing, but at the same time there were a lot of donation points and requests for donation, which could put pressure onto people who come for sort of the free experience, and then they feel the pressure to donate. The staff at the cloakroom were not particularly friendly. There were, despite the very good signage, there were some difficult areas of navigating. It was quite hard to find our way on the third and fourth floor at times to exactly the exhibits that we wanted to see. The ambience in the cafe was not too great. It was late in the day, but there was that feeling of sort of rushed, and they wanted us out of there. And most surprising was the dirty floor, which did not fit with the rest of the museum. But again, this is often a third-party vendor that is responsible for catering and is not directly necessarily part of the museum, but the museum need to be aware of these kind of pain points that consumers come across in their entire experience. I noted that there weren't many places to sit and relax and enjoy the exhibits, and not many sort of meeting points where you could meet your friends, and not a lot of sort of refueling and just relaxing areas, which would be nice to see. And then as we left, there was no sort of thank you for coming. Please check in on Facebook, or please check out our Instagram or post your pictures on Instagram. There was not a lot of sort of attempt made once we'd left for us to really continue our experience, and it would have been nice perhaps to see at the exit some kind of attempt to keep people engaged, to think about spreading the word, so positive word of mouth, to think about sort of re-engaging with the experience. So let's have a look at what our overall customer journey map might look like. Okay, so here you can see we've got our customer journey map. So I've just drawn this based on the pain points, so the sort of not so positive experiences that we had as we journeyed through the museum, and highlighting in red the sort of the highlights of our experiences, and then sort of summarized each part of the journey. I've given it sort of stars, so you can do this customer journey mapping in a number of different ways. This is just an example, a very simple example of how to get a very quick snapshot, a very quick sort of dashboard view, if you like, of the customer experience. So there's a number of ways that you can draw customer journey maps, and you're free to go on Google and Google around and see what you can find for yourself in terms of different ways of illustrating this, from simple through all the way through to very complex. But you can see here how we've done it. You've seen that we've gone through the museum, really examining the consumer touch points, thinking about what these touch points mean, and then basically presenting, if you like, the V&A Museum with an overview of our journey, and they can easily get a view from this customer journey map into what is working within the customer experience and what is not. So I hope you've enjoyed this video, and thank you very much for watching.